My daughter's 22 and a half, is a feminist, incredibly strong, and has really just inspired me in so many ways. I love her.
I'm the proud dad of Ella over here.
My vote for Kamala is an investment in my daughter's future.
I agree. I'm right there with you.
When the Dobbs decision came out 2+ years ago, I heard from Kamala right away, and then the next person was Ella. She texted me right away, essentially saying, we need to fight. This is not just an issue for women. This is an issue for men and families. And this is one of the many, many reasons why we've got to elect Kamala as president.
Never in my lifetime did I think that we would be having to fight for this and the fight for our own bodies. And I think it's really important for the men to step up and show that they actually support us and they're willing to put things on the line to help us.
Fight for our own bodies. Joining me now, my friend Allie Beth Stuckey, author of a book that it's really, boy, it nails it, what has happened to the West. One of the reasons it has happened to the West, called toxic empathy, how progressives exploit Christian compassion. Allie, it blows me away, it sickens me. I know you're not exactly thrilled about it yourself, but the truth is, half this country loves abortion enough to burn it down so they can continue having them, and people have a hard time understanding why.
Yep, absolutely. And when you hear these celebrities say why they're voting for Kamala Harris, whether it's Steph Curry or Taylor Swift or Jennifer Lawrence or Ben Stiller, their number one reason is always abortion. Not the economy, not that they think that she's the adult in the room who's going to help, bring us back on track when it comes to foreign policy or whatever. It is literally the slaughter of unborn children. And when you tear away their euphemisms, which they always use, you see what they're talking about. They're talking about poisoning and dismembering babies. That's what they want to fight for. That's what Kamala Harris is most animated about. That's what she worships. That's what Tim Walz loves. You see that in the debates. That's when they become most animated. And it's really important for us to just get rid of the propaganda for a second and talk about what they're really celebrating.
Yeah, it is. And I actually had an email to my show last night. Guy was trying to understand why they love it so much. And you put it a lot more eloquently than I do, and I'll hand you the floor. But I tried to explain that we're dealing with evil forces. We're dealing with demons. We're dealing with the devil himself. And in every demonic society in history, we're not unique. Child sacrifice has been simply a central part of it. The Phoenicians, the Aztecs, more societies than we can name. You sacrifice your most pure, your most innocent for whatever your selfish desires have to be. If you're an Aztec, you want the rain to fall on the crops that year. If you're an American young lady, you want to be able to go get hammered in Tijuana on spring break. And that's simply what evil societies do.
Yep, you put it so perfectly. There's always been practical reasons for child sacrifice. Yeah. There was, as you just mentioned, the Aztecs believed that sacrificing their children would give them good weather. To them, that wasn't just spiritual. That was just a pragmatic choice that I give the God this God will give me something in return. Well, today we don't have normal paganism. We kind of have a neo-paganism. We've exchanged the God of Scripture for the God of self. And the God of self is relentlessly demanding. It wants to meet its own needs and fulfill its own wants, no matter what. That's why you hear this language of bodily autonomy. It wants control at whatever cost, even when the cost is the blood of unborn children. Children get in the way of people's selfishness. That's actually what makes them awesome. That's what makes parenting amazing. That's why families make societies flourish. But if you worship yourself and you worship self-gratification and children are an obstacle to that, you can see why someone would fight tooth and nail to ensure that they can keep aborting their children.
Allie, in your book, you talk about misplaced motherhood. I love that term, misplaced motherhood. What are you talking about?
Yes, I think that accounts for the reason why many women, at least, have joined the social justice movement. And I really started to see this the most in the summer of 2020. when a lot of professing Christians that I know probably would consider themselves conservative, they were echoing riots are the voice of the unheard, and I really need to check my white privilege. I'm going to raise my white son as an anti-racist. And I thought, where in the world is
Oh,
this coming from?
jeez.
And then they would talk about helping the least of these, helping the most vulnerable. And what they meant by that was Black Americans or illegal immigrants or a woman who is pregnant and needs an abortion. And what I think is that is just channeling our natural motherhood instincts into hoisted up victims. And a lot of women now, they have chosen their pets and plants over children. And when that doesn't fulfill, they look for other ways to channel their natural nurturing. And social justice causes gives them a very convenient and posh and sophisticated and lazy way to do that. So I think that's at least part of why so many women are drawn to these social justice left wing causes.
Allie, I'm, as you well know, I'm very rude and a barbarian and a terrible person. So I put things in ways that offend people. I realize that, even when I don't intend to do so. But I do talk a lot about how young women, especially young single women, not as much for married women and older women, but young single women are so much more susceptible than everyone else to societal pressures. And I know this goes back to a lot of what you were just saying, social acceptance. Like, it's just women are more built that way. When we walk into a party, it's my wife who's more likely to say, please don't embarrass me, whereas I'll say something crazy. It's the way it is. And that eats young women alive. And the dirty communists know that, and they exploit that all the time.
Yeah, women love relationships. We are just more relational. We don't really compartmentalize things. Everything kind of runs together. That's one of the beautiful parts of women. That's why motherlessness is so rare throughout history, because it is so counterintuitive and counterinstinctual for mothers to abandon their kids. That bond there is just so strong. We are very loyal creatures in a lot of ways. Of course, I'm speaking generally. And we are very empathetic people. It's not hard for most women to put ourselves in the shoes of other people and to think from their perspective and to see what they see. That can be a good thing. That could lead us to selflessness. That could lead us to love, to carrying someone's burden, but it can also lead us to stupidity. It can lead us to evil. There are many examples of that, and these are the examples that I give in my book in each chapter. But one example, of course, is the whole trans phenomenon. If you have so much empathy for the man who says that he is stuck in the wrong body and he pleads with you to support him going into a women's bathroom because only then he will finally be liberated and feel good and feel happy, then your empathy could lead you to supporting a policy that violates the rights of women and girls. That's what empathy does. It has the power to blind you to reality and morality. It has the power to bid you to ignore the person on the other side of the moral equation. That is true when it comes to abortion. It's true when it comes to gender. It's true when it comes to the definition of marriage, something a lot of conservatives don't want to talk about. It's true when it comes to illegal immigration. It's true when it comes to justice or social justice. And in all of these areas, we see Christian compassion exploited for really terrible means. And the policies that we end up supporting in the name of love and tolerance actually end up hurting the very people a lot of so-called progressive Christians say they're trying to help.
No doubt. Allie, how much of this do you lay at the feet of men? I lay most of it at the feet of men. It is our job to lead. And if this society is run by a bunch of hags, it's the fault of men. But that's me speaking. What do you say?
Yeah, a lot of people say that this toxic empathy is the result of the feminization of our culture, which I don't disagree with. But gosh, I see this probably most prominently in the church. And that means that it's a lot of male pastors that have bought into this, that are too afraid of offending their congregants. And so they will echo the mottos of the world, thinking that they can be nicer than God, thinking that they can out-compassion God by disagreeing with what his word says about these things. And so, yeah, of course, everything rises and falls on leadership. And of course, men have a role to play in all of this, and as do women.
I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.